Let me ask you something. If you were driving alone through a silent forest and a wounded black panther blocked your path, would you get out of the truck? That's the exact decision Staff Sergeant Maya Reynolds had to make on a Thursday evening in North Carolina. Her military transport was the only vehicle on Highway 64 for miles. Radio wasn't working. Sun was dropping fast. Then she rounded a curve, and there it was. A full-grown panther standing on two legs in the middle of the road like it was waiting for her. Most people would have thrown the truck in reverse. Maya almost did. But here's the thing that stopped her. The panther wasn't acting like a wild animal. It was acting like it needed something from her. A dark stain matted the fur on its side. Its breathing came in visible shudders. And when it looked at her through the windshield, Maya swears she saw something she'd only ever seen in humans. Desperation. She cut the engine. The panther lowered its head, not in threat, in submission. Then it made a sound that sent ice down her spine, a low, broken cry that didn't belong in any predator's throat. "You've got to be kidding me," Maya muttered. The panther turned and limped toward the trees, stopped, looked back, waited. Now, we've all heard stories about animal intelligence, but this was different. This was a wild predator asking a stranger to follow it into the woods where no one could hear her. So what would you do? Because what Maya did next started a chain of events that changes everything. And make sure to hit like or share and subscribe to this channel. And really, I'm curious. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. We love seeing how far our stories reach. Now, before we continue with the story, let me tell you how Maya Reynolds got entangled in a situation that might change her life forever. Maya Reynolds, a U.S. Marine Corp, had driven this route 47 times in 3 years. She knew every curve, every mile marker, every spot where the cell signal dropped to nothing. Highway 64 through Blackwater Forest was as familiar as her own heartbeat, which is why she knew immediately that something was wrong. The radio had gone silent 20 minutes back. Not static, not interference. Just dead air, like someone had flipped a switch on the entire world. Maya had checked it twice. Nothing. The forest pressed in on both sides of the road, dense and dark, even though sunset was still an hour away. She rolled down the window. The air that rushed in carried no sound, no bird song, no insect hum. The silence sat in her chest like a held breath. "Come on, Reynolds. You've been in worse than a quiet forest," she muttered. The truck rounded a gentle bend, and Maya's foot slammed the brake without conscious thought. 20 yards ahead, in the center of the northbound lane, stood a black panther. The truck shuddered to a stop. Maya's hand dropped to her belt, fingers curling around the grip but not drawing. Her training kicked in. Assess the threat. Identify exits. But her training had never covered this. The panther wasn't crouched. It stood upright on its hind legs like a human, perfectly balanced. Its head was level with the truck's windshield, and it was staring directly at her. Something wet matted the fur along its left flank, dripping onto the yellow road stripe beneath it. The animal's chest heaved with shallow breaths. It should have been running, should have been hiding. Should have been doing literally anything except standing in the middle of a highway staring down a military vehicle. Maya's pulse hammered in her ears. "What are you?" As if in answer, the panther slowly lowered itself. Not into a crouch, into something else. Its front legs bent until its massive head nearly touched the pavement, body stretched low. Submission. The animal was bowing to her. No, no, that's not. Animals don't do that. But this one did. And as it held that position, head down, the panther made a sound that turned Maya cold. A broken, desperate vocalization, a plea. Maya's hand trembled on the door handle. Every rational thought screamed at her to reverse the truck. Injured animals were the most dangerous. Everyone knew that. But this animal wasn't acting dangerous. It was acting desperate. "You're asking me for help," Maya whispered. The panther lifted its head. Its eyes, amber and bright, even in the fading light, locked onto hers again. Then it rose slowly to all 4 legs and walked towards the tree line. 5 steps from the pavement, it stopped. Didn't look back. Just stood there. Maya shut down the engine. The silence became absolute. "This is insane," she said to the empty cab. The panther took another step into the trees. "Hey!" Maya's voice cracked the stillness like a whip crack. The panther stopped, turned its head, looked back over its shoulder directly at her, and waited. Maya's hand was on the door release before her brain caught up. What was she doing? Following an injured predator into isolated woods where her radio didn't work? This was how people became history in cautionary tales. But that look, that deliberate, patient, almost human look. Maya pushed the door open. Her boots hit the pavement. The air outside carried a smell she couldn't identify. Copper, maybe, or something metallic. "If you're leading me to your friends so they can finish me, I'm going to be really disappointed," she said to the darkness. The amber eyes blinked once, then turned away and vanished into the forest. Maya checked her gear, felt for her flashlight, and took a breath. Every instinct she'd honed over 8 years in the Marines was screaming at her to get back in the truck. But something stronger than instinct pulled her forward. She stepped off the pavement and into the trees. Behind her, the highway remained empty. The truck sat abandoned, and the forest, which had been silent, suddenly wasn't. Something was breathing in the shadows ahead. Something that wasn't the panther. Maya's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, catching on pine trunks and low-hanging branches. The panther was 15 feet ahead, moving slowly enough that she could keep pace. Its body remained low, partially obscured by underbrush. But those amber eyes kept checking back, making sure she was still following. Her gear stayed holstered. Something told her she wouldn't need it. Not for the panther, anyway. The dark trail started 3 yards into the tree line. Heavy marks on fallen pine needles, catching her flashlight like tiny black mirrors. Maya crouched, keeping her light steady on the nearest drops. Her medic training from boot camp kicked in automatically. Too thin, too bright. She touched the edge of one droplet with her finger, rubbed it against her thumb. It didn't look right. The consistency was wrong. Too dark to be from the panther's flank. "This is human," Maya breathed. The panther made a low sound in its throat. Not threatening, confirming. Maya stood slowly, her light following the trail deeper into the woods. The droplets became more frequent, more concentrated. Whoever was injured hadn't been walking. They'd been dragged. The drag marks appeared 10 feet further in. 2 parallel grooves in the dirt and pine needles. Between them, the trail wasn't spotty anymore. It was unbroken, continuous. Someone was in critical condition. Maya's jaw tightened. She'd seen trauma like this before, the kind that needed a hospital in minutes, not hours. Her flashlight swept the area. Debris littered the forest floor. A scrap of dark fabric caught on a bush. She pulled it free. Canvas, heavy duty, the kind used in tactical gear. "Who are you?" she whispered to the fabric. The panther moved again, drawing her attention. It was still moving deeper into the forest. This wasn't random. Maya's hand drifted to her belt. The breathing she'd heard earlier had stopped, but the silence that replaced it felt worse, heavier, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Most soldiers would have turned back by now, marked the location, and returned with a team. That would be the smart play, the safe play. But the panther kept looking back at her with those eyes that held something too close to human desperation. Maya pressed forward. The forest sounds that had been absent on the highway began creeping back, a distant rustle, the crack of a branch somewhere off to her right. But they felt wrong, too deliberate, too careful. Someone else was out here. The thought hit her like cold water. The panther wasn't just injured, it was being hunted, and whoever had done this to a human had done something to the animal too. "Who hurt you?" Maya asked quietly. The panther's ears swiveled back towards her voice, but it didn't stop moving. The drag marks led to a small clearing where the trail intensified. A lot of it. Enough that Maya's stomach turned. In the center of the disturbed earth, she found a boot print, too large to be hers, recent enough that the edges were still sharp. Then she saw the second print, and the third. 3 different sizes, 3 different people. This wasn't an accident. This was intentional. Maya's light swept the clearing again and caught on something metal half buried in the pine needles. She knelt and pulled it free. A spent brass casing. Not the kind used for hunting game. "They were hunting you," she said, looking at the panther. "Both of you." The panther's ears flattened against its skull. It moved to the far edge of the clearing and stopped beside something Maya hadn't seen in the shadows. A backpack, olive green, military grade. And next to it, a water bottle still half full. Whoever had been dragged through here hadn't been alone. They'd had gear, they'd been prepared, which meant they'd known they were walking into something dangerous. Maya reached for the backpack and froze. The breathing was back, close, too close. But it wasn't coming from where the panther stood. It was coming from behind her. Maya's hand went to her service piece as she spun, flashlight rising in one smooth motion. Her light swept across the trees, cutting through shadows, searching for movement. Nothing, but the breathing continued. Shallow, ragged, human. And then she heard it. A voice, barely a whisper. 3 words that made her body temperature run cold. "Help me, please." Before we continue, you and most people watching right now might never see another video from this channel, all because you forgot to subscribe. So please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. It is literally the only way you tell me that the hours researching, writing, and editing these stories was worth it. Now, let's get back to the story. Maya's flashlight found him in the shadows 8 feet to her left. A man lay face down in the dirt, one arm stretched out ahead of him like he had been crawling. His shirt was torn open, exposing his back where severe bruising darkened his ribs. Evidence of a struggle. Someone had targeted him. "Hey, can you hear me?" Maya dropped to her knees beside him, holstering her gear. Her hands moved to his neck, checking for a pulse. Weak, thready, but there. The panther materialized from the darkness and positioned itself directly over the man's body, standing above him like a guardian, its massive head lowered until its muzzle nearly touched the man's shoulder. The animal's breath came in short huffs, and for the first time, Maya heard something other than pain in its vocalizations. Grief. "I'm not going to hurt him," Maya said softly. "I need you to move." The panther's eyes met hers. For 3 long seconds, neither of them breathed. Then the animal stepped back. Not far. Just enough to give Maya access. But it didn't leave. It settled onto its haunches and watched every movement Maya made with an intensity that bordered on human. Maya rolled the man gently onto his side. His face was pale. Mid-30s, maybe. Strong jawline covered in 2 days of stubble. Dark hair matted with dirt. But it was his chest that made Maya's breath catch. His chest rose barely with each breath. He was in critical condition. Maya knew he needed help fast. "Who did this to you?" she whispered. The man's eyes fluttered, but didn't open. His lips moved, forming words that had no sound. Maya's flashlight swept across his exposed torso, looking for other injuries, and stopped on his right wrist. Black ink, a tattoo partially obscured by dirt. She wiped it clean with her sleeve. EGA, Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. "You're a Marine," Maya breathed. Her hand moved instinctively to his neck, searching beneath his torn collar. Her fingers found the chain immediately. She pulled gently, and 2 dog tags slid free into the flashlight beam. Heart, Aaron M. The second line made her stomach drop. OPOS, USMC, Combat Medic. "Aaron Hart," Maya said his name aloud. The panther's ears pricked forward at the sound. "You're military. What the hell are you doing out here?" Aaron's eyes cracked open, unfocused, pupils dilated unevenly, possible concussion on top of everything else. His gaze drifted past Maya to the panther, and something shifted in his expression. Recognition. Relief. His lips moved again. Maya leaned closer. "Say it again." "Shadow." The word came out on a breath that rattled in his chest. "Protect, Shadow." The panther made a sound, low and mournful. It moved closer, lowering its massive head until its forehead pressed against Aaron's shoulder. The gesture was so deliberately gentle, so impossibly tender, that Maya felt her throat tighten. This wasn't a wild animal that had stumbled across an injured human. This was a bond, deep, personal. Aaron hadn't been running from the panther. He'd been running with it. "Shadow," Maya repeated, looking at the panther. "That's you?" The animal's amber eyes shifted to her, held her gaze. And Maya would swear on everything she'd ever believed in that the panther understood her. Aaron's hand twitched, fingers searching blindly until they found the panther's leg. His grip was weak, barely there, but he held on like it was the only thing keeping him conscious. "Aaron, I need to know who did this. How many were there?" His eyes fought to focus on her face. 3, maybe 4. Each word cost him. "Hunters. Not after deer. After Shadow?" Aaron's grip on the panther tightened. "After both. Of us." Maya's mind raced. A combat medic and a black panther hunted through Blackwater Forest by men with tactical gear. This wasn't random violence. This was organized, planned. "Why?" Maya asked. "Why would anyone—" Aaron's body tensed. His breath hitched painfully, and when he opened his mouth to speak again, only a whisper came out. "Wildlife. Trafficking. I found the operation." The words hung in the air like smoke. Shadow lowered herself completely to the ground, pressing her body against Aaron's side. 2 beings who should never have been connected, bound together by something stronger than survival. Maya pulled out her radio, knowing it wouldn't work, but trying anyway. Static. Dead air. She was on her own with a critically injured Marine and a wounded Panther in the middle of nowhere. And somewhere in these woods, armed men were closing in. "I'm getting you out of here," Maya said firmly. "Both of you." Aaron's eyes closed. His breathing grew more labored. Shadow made a sound that was almost a whimper. And then, cutting through the silence of the forest like a blade, came a sound that made Maya freeze. A radio chirp, close, too close. The electronic squelch of someone keying a mic. Male voice, low, professional. "Target located, northwest quadrant. We have movement." The transmission cut off, leaving only the sound of shallow breathing and Maya's racing heartbeat. Maya's hand was already moving toward Aaron's backpack before conscious thought caught up. If armed men were tracking them, they had seconds, not minutes. She grabbed the pack and dragged it closer, keeping her body between Aaron and the direction that radio transmission had come from. Shadow remained pressed against Aaron's side, but her head lifted, ears rotating like radar dishes. The Panther's entire body tensed, muscles coiling beneath its wet fur. She knew that sound. She'd heard it before. Maya's fingers worked through the backpack's contents fast. Water bottles, first aid kit, protein bars. Nothing unusual. Nothing that explained why anyone would target a man so deliberately in the middle of nowhere. Her hand hit something hard sewn into the pack's inner lining. A hidden pocket. She ripped the seam open and pulled out a small black device the size of a deck of cards. GPS tracker, active. The tiny red light blinked steadily in the darkness. "They've been following him this whole time," Maya whispered. She crushed the device under her boot heel, but the damage was done. They already knew where Aaron was. Shadow made a low sound in her throat. Not quite a growl. A warning. Maya kept searching. Her fingers found the second pocket and pulled out something that made her stomach drop. A thumb drive, wrapped in waterproof plastic and sealed with military-grade tape. The kind of packaging that said whatever was on this drive mattered more than the person carrying it. She had no way to access it. No laptop, no tablet. But Aaron had risked his life to keep it hidden, and men with tactical gear were hunting him for it. "What's on this?" Maya asked, even though Aaron's eyes were still closed. His lips moved. "Everything." Maya tucked the drive into her vest pocket and kept digging through the pack. At the very bottom, beneath a false liner, she found a folded stack of papers protected by a plastic sleeve. Her flashlight swept across the first page. Wildlife Transport Manifest, Georgia Department of Natural Resources header. But the stamp at the bottom wasn't official. It was forged. The list shocked her. The Panther was listed as the most expensive item on the manifest. The document reduced living creatures to line items, a crime captured on paper. "No," Maya breathed. She flipped through more pages. Route maps through North Carolina and Georgia, coastal shipping schedules, names, dates, prices. This wasn't small-time poaching. This was an organized, illegal network operating through official channels, using legitimate government paperwork to move exotic predators like cargo. And Shadow, the Panther currently fading fast next to an unconscious Marine, was worth $200,000 to someone. Maya found a smaller document paper-clipped to the manifests. Handwritten notes in Aaron's scrawl. Contacted Sanctuary, denied. Fish and Wildlife, no response. Local PD, dismissed as hoax. Evidence collected, need extraction. He'd tried going through official channels, every single one. And no one had listened. So he'd done what any Marine would do. He'd gone dark, gathered proof, and tried to get Shadow out himself. You weren't trafficking them, Maya said, looking at Aaron's unconscious face. You were trying to save them. Shadow's head turned towards Maya, and for a moment their eyes met in perfect understanding. This panther hadn't been caught. She'd been stolen, ripped from wherever she'd come from, and designated as inventory. Asset, Shadow, like she was a weapon, a tool, something to be bought and sold. Rage burned hot in Maya's chest. She'd seen the worst of humanity in her 8 years of service, atrocities that made her question everything. But there was something particularly cruel about taking a creature like Shadow, intelligent, loyal, capable of genuine emotion, and reducing her to a line item on a shipping manifest. The papers showed more. Financial records, bank transfers routed through offshore accounts. And at the top of the operation, a name that appeared 3 times across different documents: Marcus Voss, CEO, Voss International Logistics. Maya photographed every page with her phone, praying the images would save even without cell service. Then she stuffed the papers back into Aaron's pack. Evidence, proof. The reason Aaron was collapsed in the dirt, and Shadow was suffering from a deep wound. A branch snapped 30 yards to the east. Shadow's body went rigid. A low growl built in her chest, vibrating against Aaron's ribs. "How many of them are out there?" Maya whispered. Aaron's eyes opened to slits. "At least 3. Radio suggested more." "Can you move?" "Not fast enough." Maya's jaw clenched. She couldn't carry a 200-pound man through dense forest while armed hunters closed in. She couldn't leave him, and Shadow was in no condition to run. They were trapped. She pulled her service weapon, checked the ammo. Not enough if there were multiple targets. Shadow struggled to her feet, swaying slightly. But she positioned herself directly between Aaron and the direction that branch had snapped, body lowered into a defensive stance despite the obvious pain. "No," Maya said firmly. "You're hurt. You can't." A laser dot tracked across the clearing, fixing briefly on Shadow's fur before she could finish her sentence. The moment froze everything, a sickening reminder she was being targeted. Someone just painted a target on her. Would you take the shot to save them? Or find another way? Comment below and smash that subscribe button because the next 60 seconds will leave you on your toes. The first crack shattered the quiet before Maya could even process the laser sight. A blast of force tore bark from the tree inches from her head, spraying fragments across her face. Maya dropped instinctively, throwing her body over Aaron's chest as Shadow exploded into motion. The panther moved like black lightning, low, fast, and utterly silent despite her injury. She launched herself toward the hostile position before the second impact could hit. A cry echoed through the trees, sharp, terrified, then fell into the underbrush. "Contact northwest," another voice shouted. "Animal is not friendly. Repeat, not friendly." A sudden flare lit up the darkness 40 yards out. Maya heard the projectile hiss past, felt the displacement of air. Too close. Way too close. She grabbed Aaron under his armpits and dragged him backward toward a fallen log, her boots slipping in the soaked dirt. He was heavyweight, 200 pounds of unconscious marine, and every inch she moved him felt like a mile. "Stay with me, Hart," she grunted. Another violent impact tore through the dirt just beside her. Maya's back hit the log, and she pulled Aaron's torso behind it, getting what cover she could. His head lolled against her shoulder, breathing heavily. She pressed 2 fingers to his neck. Pulse still there. Barely. Shadow reappeared from the darkness, moving in a crouch. She positioned herself at the end of the log, eyes fixed on the forest, body coiled and ready. 2 hostiles, maybe 3, Maya said, more to herself than the Panther. Her tactical training kicked into overdrive. Limited cover. 1 wounded civilian, 1 injured animal. No backup, no communication. This was an ambush zone, and they were in the center of it. Movement flickered 30 yards to her right. Maya swung her gear up and fired twice. The noise destroyed her night vision, but she heard someone through the underbrush, retreating. "She's armed!" a male voice called out. "Military vehicle on the highway. This could be official." "Doesn't matter," a second voice answered. Cold, calm, authority. "They've seen too much. Hart's got the evidence. Finish it." Maya froze. These weren't panicked hunters. These were professionals. A new laser sight swept across the clearing, searching. Shadow saw it before Maya did. The Panther's body tensed, and then she was moving again, a black shadow against shadows, flowing through the underbrush like smoke. Another scream. The sound of a body hitting the ground hard. Thrashing. Then silence. "We need to move," Maya whispered to Aaron's unconscious form. She checked his breathing, still shallow, but present. The radio chirp came again, closer this time. "South position, you see them?" "Negative. Lost visual. Animal took out Brooks and Simmons." 2 down. At least 1 still active. Maybe more. Maya made a decision. She couldn't carry Aaron through the forest, but she could drag him. It would be slow, loud, and leave a trail. But staying here meant not making it. She grabbed the straps of Aaron's tactical vest and pulled. His body slid across the dirt. Shadow appeared at her side, matching her pace, eyes scanning the darkness. They made it 20 feet before the next impact came. This one didn't miss. The force slammed into her left shoulder like a wrecking blow, throwing her sideways. She went down hard, still gripping Aaron's vest. The world tilted. Her vision swam. "Contact! Target down!" His voice was triumphant. Shadow roared. Not the broken sound from before. A full, primal challenge that shook the trees. The Panther charged toward the voice with a speed that shouldn't have been possible for an injured animal. Maya struggled to her knees, left arm hanging useless. She was injured. She couldn't feel her fingers, but her right hand still worked. She fought back blindly with every ounce of strength she had left. Once, twice, 3 times. Someone grunted. Movement in the brush. Running footsteps, but not toward them. Away. Fall back, fall back." "We can't handle this." The sounds of men crashing through the forest faded into the distance. Shadow returned from the darkness, breathing hard, limping worse now. Maya's vision wavered. The pain in her shoulder was spreading. She needed to assess the wound. But first she needed to check Aaron. She crawled to where he lay against the log, pressed her good hand to his neck. She found no response. No, come on." She shook him. Nothing. "Aaron!" His breathing suddenly stopped. And when she pressed her ear to his ribs, she heard nothing but silence. Aaron's heart went terrifyingly still. Shadow lowered her massive head to Aaron's chest and made a sound Maya had never heard from any animal. A broken, grieving keen that sounded almost like a sob. Maya's hands moved on autopilot. CPR. She fought desperately to bring his breath back, refusing to stop. 30 compressions. "Come on, Marine," she gasped. "You don't get to leave me. Not after bringing me all the way out here." 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds of nothing. Then Aaron's chest hitched. Once, twice. A ragged, gasping breath that sounded hopeful. He was breathing again, barely. but breathing. Maya collapsed against the log, cradling her wounded shoulder, and looked at Shadow. The panther stared back at her with eyes that held something terrifyingly human. Gratitude. Somewhere in the distance, an engine started. The engine sound cut out 30 seconds after it started. Maya's head snapped up, good hand still pressed against her injured shoulder. They weren't leaving. They were repositioning. "They're coming back," she whispered. Shadow's ears flattened against her skull. The panther moved to the edge of their makeshift cover, body low, every muscle visible beneath her fur. But something had changed in her posture. She wasn't defensive anymore. She was hunting. Maya tried to stand, and her vision grayed at the edges. She'd seen worse downrange, but she'd had a combat medic within shouting distance then. Now she was the only thing standing between Aaron and a final shot. "I can't carry him," Maya said, looking at Shadow. "I can barely stand." The panther turned those amber eyes on her, held her gaze. Then Shadow moved to Aaron's other side, gripped the shoulder of his tactical vest gently in her jaws, and pulled. Aaron's body slid 6 inches across the dirt. Maya's throat tightened. "You're showing me." Shadow released the vest and looked at Maya expectantly. Between the two of them, a wounded Marine and a battered panther, they could move him. Slowly, but they could move him. Maya grabbed Aaron's vest straps with her good hand. Shadow took the other side in her jaws. Together they dragged him deeper into the forest, away from the clearing. They made it 40 feet before Maya heard the voices again. "The trail leads northwest. They can't have gone far. Hart's hit bad. Reynolds is military. She'll make for the highway. Then we cut them off at the road." Footsteps, multiple sets, moving with tactical precision. These men had done this before. Maya pulled Aaron behind a massive fallen pine and pressed herself flat against the rotting wood. Shadow melted into the darkness so completely that even Maya lost track of her. The first hunter appeared 20 yards away, hardware raised, night vision monocular over one eye. He moved like military. Smooth, controlled. He never saw Shadow coming. The panther dropped from an overhanging branch 8 feet above his head, landing on his shoulders with all her weight. The man went down without a sound. The hunter went absolutely still beneath her, eyes wide with terror behind his night vision gear. "Don't move," Shadow's body language said clearer than words. "Don't breathe wrong." She held him there for 5 seconds. 10. Making sure he understood that his life was hers to take or spare. Then she released him. But not before raking her claws across his vest hard enough to shred the tactical fabric. The man scrambled backward, gasping, and ran. His footsteps crashed through the underbrush, all discipline forgotten. "Johnson, report!" a voice called from the south. No response. Johnson was still running. Shadow materialized beside Maya again, barely breathing hard despite her injuries. Her movements were economical, precise, no wasted energy. "You're not just protecting him," Maya whispered. "You're protecting all of us." The panther's tail flicked once. Acknowledgement. They moved again. Maya dragged Aaron's upper body. Shadow pulled from the side. The forest floor sloped downward, making it easier, but Maya's shoulder screamed with every movement. Aaron stirred. His eyes cracked open, unfocused. "Maya." The word was barely a breath. "Don't talk. Save your strength." Shadow. "She's here. She's not leaving you." Aaron's hand moved weakly, searching. Shadow lowered her head within reach, and his fingers found her jaw. touched gently. The panther leaned into the touch like a house cat, despite the chaos surrounding them. Movement flickered to their left. Maya's weapon came up, but Shadow was already moving. She flowed through the shadows like liquid night, circling behind the second hunter before he knew she was there. This one was smarter. He spun, bringing his gear around fast, but Shadow was faster. She hit him low, striking his leg, not breaking, just holding, controlling. The hunter screamed and dropped his gear. Shadow released him and was gone before he could recover, leaving him grounded, clutching his leg. 2 down, pure restraint. She's not trying to harm them, Maya breathed. She's trying to make them leave. But some men don't leave. The radio chirp came from directly ahead. Close. Too close. I've got thermal on 3 heat signatures. 1 large animal, 2 human, northwest section 30 meters from my position. Maya went cold. Advanced tracking equipment. They had been watching every move. Shadow's growl rumbled low in her chest. She moved in front of Maya and Aaron, body coiled, ready. A figure emerged from the trees ahead, taller than the others, broader. Night vision goggles covered his eyes, and a thermal scope sat mounted on his barrel. He moved with the confidence of a man who knew he had every advantage. "End of the line, Reynolds," he said calmly. "You're fading fast. Heart's gone. And that animal is worth more alive. But I'll settle for the trophy if I have to." He raised his rifle, thermal sight glowing green in the darkness. Shadow didn't retreat, didn't flinch. She stood her ground between the threat and Aaron, struggling with her injuries, body trembling from exhaustion. She wouldn't let them pass. The hunter tensed, preparing to fire. And Maya made a choice that would end her career. Before we continue, I would like to let you know that you don't owe me a subscription, but if this video made you feel anything at all, disappearing without supporting it says a lot. So please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. It is literally the only way you tell me that the hours researching, writing, and editing these stories was worth it. Now, let's get back to the story. Maya's hand went to the radio on her vest. The emergency channel. The one reserved for life-threatening situations when all other communication was down. The one that would broadcast her identity, location, and situation to every military installation within a 100-mile radius. The one she was explicitly forbidden to use without direct authorization from command. Her fingers closed around the device. The hunter's aim was steady, pointed directly at Shadow's chest. A fraction of an inch on that mechanism, and the panther would be gone. Then Aaron, then her. She had 3 seconds to decide who she was going to be. Maya keyed the radio. "This is Staff Sergeant Maya Reynolds, service number 2749685, broadcasting on a restricted emergency channel." Her voice was steady despite the exhaustion, despite the fear. "I have a critically wounded civilian and require immediate medical evacuation. Multiple armed hostiles in area. Repeat, multiple armed hostiles. This is a live fire situation." The hunter's head snapped toward her. "What did you just do?" "I called in the Marines," Maya said quietly. "So you can fire and be here when they arrive, or you can run." For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. The hunter's weapon remained trained on Shadow. His finger stayed on the trigger. The thermal scope's glow painted his face green in the darkness. "You shouldn't have done that," he said. "I know." And she did know. Maya knew this could end her career. Discharge proceedings. Court-martial possibly. Everything she'd worked for since she was 18 years old. Gone. But Aaron would not last long. Shadow, too. And Maya had looked into that panther's eyes and seen something worth saving. The hunter lowered his rifle slowly. Marcus Voss doesn't forget. You just made his list. Get in line. He backed away, weapon still ready, eyes moving between Maya and Shadow. This isn't over. That animal is worth a fortune to the wrong people. Hart has evidence that could put 20 people in prison. You think one distress call is going to stop this? I think I just made this official, Maya said, which means every person who shows up at these coordinates is going to want answers about why you're here with heavy hardware pursuing an unarmed man. The hunter's jaw tightened. He keyed his own radio. All units, abort. We're compromised. Military response inbound. Voss will have to handle this another way. He disappeared into the trees. Movements fast and practiced. Within seconds, Maya heard engines starting in the distance, doors slamming, vehicles moving away fast. Shadow's body relaxed slightly, but she didn't leave her position over Aaron. The panther's sides heaved with exhausted breaths. Maya slumped against the fallen log, radio still clutched in her good hand. The emergency channel crackled with static. Then a voice broke through. Staff Sergeant Reynolds, this is Camp Lejeune Dispatch. We copy your distress signal. Can you confirm coordinates and nature of casualties? Maya's thumb hovered over the transmit button. This was it. The moment she made it real. Made it impossible to take back. She keyed the radio. Confirmed. 1 civilian male, mid-30s, severe chest trauma, internal damages, possible respiratory failure, requires immediate evac. I have a ballistic injury to left shoulder. Multiple hostiles fled the scene armed with advanced tracking gear. Copy that. Medevac helicopter dispatching from Lejeune. ETA 42 minutes. Can you move to a clearing for extraction? Maya looked at Aaron's unconscious form, then at Shadow standing guard over him. 42 minutes. Aaron might not have 42 minutes. Negative on moving the casualty. His injuries are too severe. We'll mark our location with flashlight signal. Understood. Stay on this frequency. Help is coming. The radio went silent. Maya let it fall to her side and looked up at the canopy of trees above them. Somewhere beyond those branches, a helicopter was spinning up. And in some office, someone was logging her service number, starting a file that would end with her discharge. Was I right? Maya asked the darkness. Asked Shadow. Asked herself. The panther turned her massive head and looked at Maya with those impossibly intelligent eyes. Then Shadow moved closer and pressed her shoulder against Maya's good side. The weight was warm, solid, real. Some things were worth more than a career. Maya's radio chirped again. Different voice this time. Clipped, professional, cold. Reynolds, this is Colonel Marks from Camp Lejeune. I need you to clarify the nature of this incident. You're reporting armed hostiles in a civilian forest area. Were these hunters? Trespassers? What exactly are we responding to? Maya's chest tightened. Here it came. The questions. The doubt. Sir, this is a criminal operation with heavy weapons and organized hostile action against a civilian and... She stopped. How did she explain Shadow? How did she tell a career Marine that she'd called in a medevac for a Black Panther? And? Colonel Marks prompted. And an endangered animal that was being illegally transported and hunted, Maya finished. Silence on the other end, long enough that Maya thought she'd lost the signal. We'll discuss this in detail upon your return, Staff Sergeant. For now, keep that frequency open and await extraction. The radio went dead. Maya looked at Aaron, whose breathing was growing more shallow. Looked at Shadow, who was fading slowly, holding on through sheer willpower. 40 minutes until the helicopter arrived. 40 minutes to keep them both alive. Shadow's ears suddenly pricked forward. Her body went rigid. Maya heard it a second later. A mechanical whir, high-pitched, getting closer. Not a helicopter. Something smaller. Faster. A drone emerged from the trees, camera lens glinting in the moonlight. It hovered 30 feet above them, red recording light blinking steadily. Maya froze. The hunters were gone, but someone was still watching. The drone circled once, camera adjusting, zooming in on their position. Then it rose higher and began moving south, following the exact flight path an incoming helicopter would take. Leading the way. Maya grabbed her radio. "Dispatch, be advised." The transmission cut off with a burst of static, every frequency dead, jammed. And in the distance, barely audible, came the sound of rotor blades approaching fast. But these rotors were coming from the wrong direction. Maya had maybe 2 minutes before that drone led whoever was in that helicopter straight to them. 2 minutes to move Aaron and Shadow somewhere, anywhere, that wasn't a wide-open ambush zone. "We need water," she said, remembering her survival training. Their thermal gear can't see through water. Shadow's ears swiveled toward a sound Maya couldn't hear yet. Then the Panther moved, gripping Aaron's vest in her jaws again. She pulled, heading downslope, and Maya understood. Shadow could hear running water. They dragged Aaron through the underbrush, every second feeling like an hour. Maya's shoulder screamed. Her vision kept tunneling at the edges, but she kept moving. The creek appeared 30 yards ahead, a dark ribbon cutting through the forest floor. The banks were steep, lined with rocks and exposed roots. Shadow pulled Aaron down the slope without hesitation. Maya followed, half sliding in the loose dirt. The creek was shallow, maybe 2 feet deep, running fast over smooth stones. Cold. The kind of cold that would slow Aaron's heart even more. But it would also hide their heat signatures. "In the water!" Maya gasped, positioning Aaron so his body was partially submerged, his head elevated on a rock to keep his airway clear. Shadow waded in beside him, lowering herself until only her head remained above the surface. The drone's mechanical whir grew louder. Maya pressed herself against the creek bank, under an overhang of roots and dirt, gear drawn. Her hand shook. She couldn't steady it. The helicopter rotors thundered closer. Not military. The sound was wrong. Civilian aircraft, maybe corporate, and it was coming in fast. Too fast for a normal landing approach. They were making sure Maya and Aaron didn't leave this forest with the evidence. The drone appeared overhead, camera panning across the creek. Its spotlight blazed to life, sweeping across the water in wide arcs. Searching. Maya held her breath. Beside her, Shadow went absolutely still, only her eyes moving, tracking the light. The spotlight passed over them, kept moving, came back, stopped. "Contact!" A voice crackled from a speaker mounted on the drone. "Creek bed, northwest bank." The helicopter changed course, coming straight for them. Maya's radio suddenly crackled to life, the jamming lifting for just a second. "Reynolds, this is actual Marine medevac, ETA 30 minutes. Do you copy?" 30 minutes. They had to survive 30 more minutes. The spotlight pinned them. Maya seized the only chance she had to divert the drone. She fired a quick diversion and the drone wavered, losing its line of sight. But the damage was done. The helicopter knew exactly where they were. Rappel lines dropped from the aircraft as it hovered 60 feet above the creek. Two figures descended fast, boots hitting the ground within seconds, both armed, both moving with professional precision. Shadow erupted from the water. The first man barely had time to raise his hardware before 200 pounds of Panther hit him chest high. The sheer force of the impact sent him sprawling into the rocky creek bed, his gear flying from his grip as Shadow pinned him with overwhelming strength. The second man swung his gear toward Shadow. Maya moved on pure instinct. She launched herself from the creek bank, tackling him sideways. They hit the water hard, and Maya's wounded shoulder flared with pain, but she held on. The man struggled, trying to gain leverage. Cold rushed into Maya's nose and mouth. She couldn't breathe. Her lungs screamed for air. She pushed away, creating space, and struck him hard with her uninjured arm. A desperate, defensive blow that knocked him off balance. He stumbled back, slipping on the wet rocks, and went down. Maya dragged herself upright, coughing water. Shadow had the first man completely neutralized, holding him down without needing to bite. The man went still, surrendering. Shadow released him, and he scrambled away downstream, terrified. The helicopter circled again, but no more lines dropped. They'd seen what happened to the first two men. They were reassessing. Maya crawled to Aaron. He was fading fast. His chest wasn't moving. No, not now. Not after all this. She pulled him onto the bank, tilted his head back, checked his airway, started compressions. 1, 2, 3. Her wounded shoulder protested with every push, but she didn't stop. Breathe, Aaron, come on! Shadow pressed against his side, making that keening sound again. 15 compressions, 20, 30. She tried everything to bring him back. Nothing. Don't you dare! Maya gasped. Don't you dare leave me here! 30 more compressions. Her vision was graying. She was going into shock herself. But she kept pushing. Aaron's chest hitched. Once, twice, then he gasped. A ragged sound that meant his lungs were still damaged but working. He was breathing. Shadow lowered her head to his chest, listening to his heartbeat, and released a sound that was almost a sob. The helicopter swung back around, but this time Maya heard something else beneath its rotors. A second helicopter. Deeper sound. Military-grade engines. The civilian aircraft banked hard and fled north, disappearing over the tree line. The military helicopter descended, spotlight illuminating the creek bed. A voice boomed from its speaker. Staff Sergeant Reynolds, this is Marine Medevac. We have visual on your position. Prepare for extraction. Maya collapsed onto the rocks, hand pressed to her bleeding shoulder, and looked up at Shadow. The Panther stared back at her, amber eyes reflecting the helicopter's spotlight. We made it, Maya whispered. But as the helicopter settled into a hover and medics prepared to rappel down, Maya saw something that made her heart stop. A third figure stood in the trees 50 yards downstream, watching. Not running, not engaging, just watching. Marcus Voss had sent his hunters, and when they failed, he'd come himself. The figure raised something to his face, binoculars, or a camera, recording everything, every face, every action. Then he turned and walked calmly into the darkness. The medics hit the ground running. 2 corpsmen with tactical medical packs, moving with the kind of efficiency that only came from treating combat wounds under fire. They assessed Aaron first. Vitals, airway, circulation. Hands moving fast while calling out numbers Maya's fading consciousness couldn't quite process. His chest injury is severe. Critical condition. He's fading fast. Get him in the basket, now. Shadow wouldn't move. She stood over Aaron's body, injured and trembling with exhaustion, but her stance was clear. These strangers weren't taking him anywhere without her permission. One medic reached for Aaron's arm, and Shadow's lips pulled back, giving a low warning. "Easy," Maya called out, her voice weak. "She's protecting him. She won't hurt you if you let her see what you're doing." The lead medic, a grizzled staff sergeant with 20 years of combat patches on his sleeve, stopped, looked at Shadow, really looked at her, at the deep injury in her flank, at the way she stood despite obvious pain, at how her eyes tracked every movement near Aaron with laser focus. "I've seen combat dogs less loyal," he said quietly. Then, to Shadow, "We're trying to save him, same as you." Shadow's ears swiveled forward, listening. The medic knelt slowly, hands visible, and placed a field dressing on Aaron's chest wound. Shadow watched, but didn't growl. He worked quickly, stabilizing Aaron enough for transport, narrating every action in a calm voice. "Stopping the bleeding, securing his airway. Getting him ready to fly." Shadow's body relaxed incrementally with each explanation. When they lifted Aaron onto the rescue basket, she followed, limping badly now, staying close enough to touch him. "What about the Panther?" the second medic asked. "She comes with us," Maya said. It wasn't a request. "Ma'am, we can't transport a wild..." "She's not wild, and if you leave her here, she won't make it. Aaron would never forgive me." The staff sergeant looked at Shadow again, at the intelligence in those amber eyes, at the way she pressed her body against the side of the rescue basket, refusing to leave Aaron even as the helicopter's downdraft whipped her fur. "Load her," he said. "We'll figure out the paperwork later." They lifted Aaron into the helicopter first. Shadow tried to jump in after him, but her injured leg gave out. She fell hard against the skid and tried again. Maya found strength she didn't have left. She grabbed Shadow's haunches and pushed, helping lift 200 pounds of wounded Panther into the helicopter. Shadow immediately positioned herself beside Aaron's basket, body pressed against the metal frame. Maya climbed in last. Her vision was tunneling hard now. Shock, adrenaline crash. She barely felt the medics working on her shoulder, inserting an IV, wrapping pressure bandages. The helicopter lifted. Through the open door, Maya caught one last glimpse of Blackwater Creek, the forest that had witnessed everything, that held secrets it would never tell. Then the trees swallowed the scene, and they were airborne. The flight to Camp Lejeune took 19 minutes. Aaron's heart stopped once. The medics brought him back. Shadow never left his side, her presence somehow keeping him tethered to life through sheer force of will. When they landed, the chaos began. FBI task force agents were already there, having intercepted Maya's radio transmission. They swarmed the helipad with questions, cameras, evidence bags. Maya handed over Aaron's backpack, the thumb drive, the manifests. Everything. "Marcus Voss," she said, words slurring with exhaustion. "He runs the operation. He was there at the creek. He knows we have evidence." "We'll handle it," an agent assured her. "You've done enough." Had she? Maya watched Aaron being rushed into surgery, Shadow being sedated by a veterinary team flown in from Fort Bragg. Had she done enough, or had she just painted targets on all their backs? The answer came 16 hours later. Maya woke in a hospital bed, shoulder immobilized, IV line in her arm. Colonel Marks stood at the foot of her bed, expression unreadable. "Staff Sergeant Reynolds, welcome back." "Sir, I can explain. The FBI arrested 14 people this morning. The illegal network stretched from North Carolina to Florida. High-value exotic animals being sold to private collectors, some overseas. Your evidence broke the entire operation. Maya's breath caught. And Marcus Voss? In custody. Turns out that thumb drive had 5 years of financial records. He's looking at 20 to 30 years in federal custody. Relief flooded through her. Aaron? Shadow? Heart came through surgery. Critical, but stable. The Panther? Colonel Marks almost smiled. The Panther is currently under guard in a wildlife recovery facility, but she's refusing to eat. Refuses to let anyone near her. The vets think she's grieving. She needs to see him, Maya said immediately. She needs to know he's alive. That's highly irregular. Sir, with respect, everything about this situation is irregular. Colonel Marks studied her for a long moment. The unauthorized use of emergency protocols will require a formal review. You'll likely face disciplinary action. Your career will be impacted. I understand. But you saved a man's life, exposed a major criminal operation, and demonstrated the kind of judgment under fire that the Marines are built on. He straightened. We'll see what the review board says. He left. Maya closed her eyes, exhaustion pulling her under. She woke again 3 days later to find Aaron sitting in a wheelchair beside her bed, chest wrapped in bandages. Skin still pale, but eyes clear. You brought her back, he said. His voice was rough, damaged from the respirator, but firm. We brought each other back. I need to see her. So do I. They discharged them both against medical advice. Aaron in a wheelchair, Maya with her arm in a sling, they made their way to the wildlife facility on the base's southern edge. Shadow lay in a large recovery pen, bandaged and thin, her head on her paws. When Aaron's wheelchair approached, her head lifted. For 3 heartbeats, neither moved. Then Aaron raised his hand, palm out. The gesture simple and clear. I'm here. I'm alive. You saved me. Shadow struggled to her feet, limped across the pen to the fence, pressed her massive head against the chain link where Aaron's hand waited. Aaron's fingers touched her muzzle through the fence. And the sound Shadow made, low and broken and relieved, was the most human thing Maya had ever heard from an animal. They stayed that way for 20 minutes. Man and Panther, connected by something that had no name but was stronger than words. When they finally had to leave, Shadow walked them to the pen's edge. But she didn't follow. She turned instead, moving slowly, limping, back toward the forest that bordered the facility. Aaron called her name. Shadow. She stopped, looked back, those amber eyes holding his one last time. Then she slipped through a gap in the fence the guards had never noticed and disappeared into the trees. She's going home, Aaron whispered. Will she survive out there? Maya asked. She survived worse, and now she's free. Maya watched the shadows where Shadow had vanished. Somewhere in those woods, a black panther who'd been labeled as inventory, reduced to a price tag, was reclaiming her life. The network was broken. Marcus Voss was in prison. Aaron was alive. And Blackwater Forest had its guardian back. If this story made you feel something, if it made you believe that loyalty knows no species, then don't let it end here. Share it. Pass it on. Stories like this need to be told. They remind us that doing the right thing costs something, but staying silent costs more. Hit that subscribe button because we're not done telling stories about the brave, the broken, and the ones who refuse to look away. Shadow found her freedom, and we're just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.